What's going down, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. Soul Effect, Charlie for the R&B Talk Show. This lady right here don't need no introduction. Let me tell you something. When you think about Serenity K, you think about, she's not just an artist. She's not just, somebody that helps educate women and men, but she's all around entertainer. Like when I first saw you, I was thinking about, this woman needs a book or something, because I can tell she got a lot of great stories to tell. You know what I'm saying, and everything. And I want to let me rephrase that. Let me rewind that. I'm a yeah, future doctor Katina Ed. There you
Yeah.
go. Yeah. But like before you
Thank
get to history, I want to talk about your music. And so so let's talk about the brand new singles and stuff. Let's hop on Spotify while we at it. And congratulations, on having a handful of top 10 singles.
thank you so much. And I just want to say before you start, I am truly honored to be on your show. Like I said, I've followed you for some time, and the person that you are that we can relate to. You're like I call you our ambassador, and you will always be our
I
ambassador because
appreciate it.
you are very authentic in what you do. So thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Most definitely. Miss V in the house. What's going on, Queen? All the way from Virginia. Yeah, okay, so the very first song you recorded, correct me on this one, is Serenity.
Yes.
That's the first one. So what inspired you to want to like tap into want to be an artist?
All right, so I'm gonna go back in history just a little bit. I'm not gonna tell you my age, but so I was always an artist back like in high school. We did things related to music and dance. So I do dance. I do a lot of different things. I'm an athlete by trade. I just do a lot of different things. And so one thing that inspired me back in the high school years when with the band and things like that was dancing. And so when we relate to dance, I was like, gosh, so if we dance, then I can put the music in, intertwine it all together, and then I can sing. So back then, I didn't think I was a very good singer, so I did more of dance. I still dance. I do a lot of different dances, and so that kind of inspired me moving forward because I technically was a tomboy back in that day, and so I did what the boys did. So they rapped, I rapped. They danced. I danced. We did all those different things. And so as I got older, not only did I build my profession, but it was still in me in order to continue the dance and the music. But I didn't so much touch on music because I had other endeavors, like with my professional things that I
Yeah,
did. And so it was just recently, a few years ago, that I started to get back into the music. And so that is what inspired me, along with other things.
absolutely. Yeah, because I think it's so cool when you are gifted with so many talents, and it's not like it's planned out. Your mind, like, hey, this is what I want to do. Then when you
Yeah,
discover, like, wow, I can actually do these things, when you start perfecting it,
yeah,
it shocks me, like, wow, you're really good at what you do. You got some folks that will sit here and be like, they're good at just like you. And then when they try to do the same thing, they like continue to slip and they swimming
yeah.
downhill like this. That well as I know that's a dang on lie. You know what I'm saying? So
and
it's
you,
a tone deaf thing.
and that's true. You can't, and you're right. I'm telling you, you're just so authentic with, what all the things that you talk about. And the reason I tell you that is because although, people look at you and I individually as like, okay, they're doing all this. Are they really doing all this? But a lot of people don't understand like how long it took us in order to build, all of these endeavors that we're doing. And although
Yeah.
my profession may be doctoral student, I'm a nurse, I'm an administrator, I'm an instructor for, concealed carry. I'm a CPR instructor. But they don't understand that with the music, as we talk about music and professional, endeavors, is that it took us a while to get into that. And it's not because we wanted to reach the stars to be everything under the sun. That's just where the stars aligned, and we're motivated and we're enthusiastic about what it is that we want to do. And I look at it like an umbrella. The more things that you can do, that's the more outreach that you can do and inspire other people in all different aspects. And I think that was my mindset, not just be tied down to one single thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right about that, because that's the thing too. I think people tend to forget is that, everybody's built different. Everybody's skill level is different. That's what made God made us all unique. Everybody could be, an artist, a doctor, lawyer, uh, uh, a like own a building, no matter what type of lane it is and stuff. I mean, we all different, like I mean, I've been asked to be a host or anything like that. I just, as a little boy, I had a dream about be hosting a talk show. And I was 9 years old. I told my mama, I want to be a talk show host. After watching Arsenio Hall, I had a dream about that. So,
Yeah.
hey, like with Days Come to Life, it says a whole lot of stuff. Okay, the next single, It Was You. So you thought to yourself, like, okay, the first one, okay, we cooking. Let me see if I can bring another one in.
So It Was You was actually it was inspired off of Serenity. Serenity is more of like surreal, like things in life, you relate it to being surreal, or the people you care about, or the people you love, and that Serenity inspired that aspect. But when it got to It Was You, it was more of a connection of me and who I am and who it relates to me as a person and who I care about. So that one was actually driven off of my relationship, and it inspired me to keep going, because Serenity was like, oh, okay, man. And actually, you also inspired it as well, because when Serenity came out, it was on thing, and then you started looking at the charting reviews, and I was like, wow, like you were like really bringing it to light with the trackers and things. And so I was like, okay, It Was You. It was still on the back burner, but it was more of an accolade toward like who I am as a person and who I'm connected with and who I care about. And so when Serenity started charting, that inspired me, because you were able to kind of show like the results from it, or I would have been like, yeah, it was okay. But It Was You, it was definitely one that I said, you know what, if Serenity can do it, then this one can do it. So that's kind of what inspired me on that. It was really surreal of how it just kind of connected with each one.
Yeah, I always tell artists is, when they start out, singing, or they already got a handful of music, like, like,
Yeah.
don't feel, what was gifted to you and stuff. And I get it, because a lot of times with certain DJs, and I see it happen to a lot of people, be like, oh, yeah, I'm playing your music, but they don't see the results. I'm a type of person, I'm gonna say, hey, this how you play was done in this month, in this and that, you know what I'm saying? And I'm a type of person, I rather show you organic stuff, not this bot stuff that's bought out. And that's the sad part about that. And I wish that, these so-called DJs who have Spotify playlists, they gotta do better. They got to, what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And like when I first started doing that in 2018, people didn't get it. That I had to make multiple videos, breaking stuff down. And that's same people that was talking all that crap, they was copying. So
Wow.
yeah, but only difference between me and them is that, you're not about to sit here and see me spending money, buying fake numbers for on streams. Because a lot of times, if you tell an artist, "Oh my God, like he's made 1.5 million," but your account say $2.95, that's a problem. So in that,
That
and I
is
don't
a
see that
problem.
happen.
Yeah.
I see that happen too many times. My thing like this. Now, you can spend money on yourself to sponsor, promote your music. That's what you're supposed to. Build your numbers
Right.
up. You know what I'm saying? But like
Right.
all that hibbity blue blood crap, that's the part I don't like. And I don't expose too many artists that done that. But
Right.
so you ain't got to fake it to make it. What I'm saying? So that's all
It's
God
called,
truth.
yeah, yeah, just do you. And I'm gonna tell you, that was one of the reasons why you inspired me to keep going with this, because I liked how you said, and for people that don't relate, or they just see different people, coming on doing talk shows, it's relatable for me and others, is because you did talk about that organic, atmosphere. I'd rather be an artist and know that I don't care if I have two people liking my song or three people. At least I know they're organic people, real people that are actually listening to it. So, when you look at like, oh my gosh, she's got like 1,000 or whatever, they're organic people. And that gives you that motivation and that drive. And at least, at the end of the day, I didn't have to buy, 1.5 million people in order to, get my views. I'm looking for the real organic people. And that's kind of what I liked about it. And that originally is what continued to inspire me to keep going.
Yeah, I had to tell this one lady from Dallas, no name mentioned, she was like, "Oh my God, she said, I'm getting all my streams for you, for nobody else." And I told her, I said, what it is, even though, you're touring, you're doing this and that, you got a name out there, what it is, it's just that the folks that smile in your face are not really looking out for your best benefit.
Yeah.
I told her, said, only time, when only time streams are created is like if somebody create a playlist, yeah, your results going to say came from one city, but it's a handful of people play your music. That's the big difference,
That's right.
So if I say Little Kentucky, if I say my city, but at the same time, if somebody's playing your music over and over again and stuff, then that means that somebody's liking your record.
That's right.
And that could be from mine, it's come from whatever stuff, but yeah, that's the way it is. So, like the current single of Legends of Serenity K,
Yeah.
and what inspired you to be like, okay, two songs? Hey, let me see the third one be the charm by this time.
So these renditions of these songs, and then they're kind of like melancholy a little bit. They got like that R&B, like that sway, that kind of
Yeah,
romantic thing. So Legends of Serenity was actually one of my vocalists, that I had come in and actually do the song. Any song that I do, I write, I produce, or sing, or either have someone come in. I'm not a male, so Legends of
yeah,
Serenity couldn't be, I couldn't do the male version of it. And so Legends of Serenity is a kind of I hate to keep bringing the name up, but it's I identify Kenny G as a legend,
right.
and we look at anything that we do, whether it's you or, anybody that we pretty much, that inspire us, we call them legends. There's many
Yeah,
of
yeah. Pay your hard this
legends.
year.
Yeah, there's many of legends that we actually, can relate to. And so that song is what kind of gave me that ambition. Okay, the first one, the second one, all right, Legends of Serenity needs a little bit of a twist. So I wanted to bring in a male version of it in order to relate more on that side, to show that I can do not only a male version, but also a female version, of any song that I can do. I want to be very diverse. I just don't want it to be all female, usually
Yeah.
slow or whatever. So I tried to do that alternative twist to it. So that Legends of Serenity is actually a dedication of Kenny G.
Oh man, that's awesome. This stuff.
Yeah.
And we definitely gonna talk about Kenny G,
Yeah.
in the middle of this. I want to start from the very beginning. When you was growing up as a child, what was your only inspirations, of what you want to do with yourself? And when you was a little girl, like what was your ambitions at that time?
So my overall, which is a little different from now. So my mom was a medical professional. So she was a nurse in the field, and I watched her, take care of people, and it was always driven from my parents. I've always, it's kind of like what we talked about earlier. What you see is what you get. I'm not going to change. I give my all. I'm committed to whatever I do. And so when I saw my mom working in the healthcare field, because it was just something about the humility that I have for people. And so when I saw her doing that, I was like, you know what? I want to be a nurse one day. And so that actually was my inspiration. That's how I actually got started in the medical field. And
Right.
that's all I did. I was an athlete by trade. So I not only did the, athlete part, I knew that wasn't, not unless I went, pro, I wanted to go pro in volleyball, but, I didn't. So I started working into the healthcare field and been there ever since.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty awesome. And see, I think it's awesome for because you come from the era where it was like the Cosby Show was inspiring a lot of black, young women and men that want to go in college, become something. Then you had Different World came like soon after that. Because you look at the numbers, how it was in the 50s, 60s, 70s, it was like maybe like 2-3%. Then
Yeah.
it increased from that percentage to like 40, 50, 80.
Yeah.
It's like everywhere you go, you see a bunch of people going to school and stuff. Uh, for the time, you got in that lane, what was it, that to be like, okay, aspire you, be like, okay, I'm here now. What can I do to really, provide something, for the community, for my clients, for my patients and stuff, when it comes to like helping individuals.
And to the current, to today, to the current.
I mean, far as in the beginning of it back then.
I still say it was just driven of who I was as a person. I always had it in me, I always wanted to help people. And I think that motivation, that drive, we call it that motor, that keeps us going. When I'm in nursing or I'm taking care of people, I think that humility part of it just continued to motivate me, inspire me, and it just doesn't stop. Anything that I do, I still give that 110 extra because it's just how I was built. I can't turn it off. I can't turn it off, and you can't say, Katina, so tomorrow why don't you like not do anything and not be less busy? Because that's just not how I'm driven. You know, I'm always on the go. I'm always, you know, moving to the next, you know, to see what's out there and what's next. And I think that carried with me from that time, and it's just continue. It just doesn't stop. You know, I can't turn it, you know, you can't turn something off that you love. And so that keeps my motivation in anything that I do.
Absolutely. You know, because by the time you hear was like you was in your 20s, became a young adult, and I know you be around people that was like, here it is, our age at that time,
Yeah.
and you got some folks that I know you see this so many times. They say they're helping people, but they so triggery to put you down instead of helping you want to get a job, helping you get on your feet, help you with your mental state. You know, where that regardless of the man and the female coming in, or even the child, you know, where they can feel comfortable coming to you about anything. And you got some folks that brush them off. And kind of remember when Obama said this, you know, it's like there come a time a person got to retire. You know,
Absolutely.
and it's sad though, because I done seen some black men and black women, and they thinking, okay, you know, this person is black like me, but I don't think they help me. A lot of, and 80% of the time, far as a population age range, that's not the case. Some people will help you, and some are just all over the place, you know. And they just there, you know, it's what they there for a check. They want to really. It's kind of like how can I put it up? A narcissistic fine,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
narcissistic, like what you want to call it, you know. And
Yeah.
it's sad, you know, how men and women just get right back to uh what's that word, reoffended or whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? You know, like your job supposed to help people. You know, it's not throw them back in jail, you know, because it's this system more of a setup than it is helping people. You know, so for you, you know, what was your thought process on
Oh
how you want to
wow.
train people?
Wow. Oh, I'm gonna. Oh wow. So man, gosh, you're bringing up some good points. Woo, man,
Yeah,
this is oh gosh, in the
yeah,
20 something years, you have hit this right on the spot. So when we talk about mental health, and you know, you got to be careful because still to this day, when we think we're really helping people, you know, talking about
mhm,
things, they also get triggered. So you have to be careful with, you know, how you do your responses. But I will say this with the different things that I do. So I'm a licensed nursing home administrator. I'm a nurse. You know, I've been in development, you know, building companies. And when you look
yeah,
at mental health, God, you hit this so on the head. A lot of times when you get into this atmosphere of people like you said, you're like they really think they're helping you, but they're not. A
yeah,
lot of people look at you as being real. So just like you and I. So if I was to say, let's just say Sue came to us and wanted, you know, some advice, you got to be careful how you give it because a lot of times in this field, even when we give advice or if we try to help our employees or do the right thing, a lot of times people don't want to hear that. So you have to
you
be
know,
very diligent on how you respond to mental health. And so we always tell people, you know, if it's almost like you said with Obama, if you're not in it for the heart, if you're not in it just not for a paycheck, then don't do it. Because unfortunately, that affects a lot of different things, period.
it does. You know, that's the sad part about that, you know, and this system is crooked because I remember when I was going through, you know, some shenanigans and stuff like that. When I was going through my depression at the time, and when I was like in my mid 20s, because I didn't know what mental health was because
Yeah,
it was never taught at home or anything like that. You know,
yeah,
it's like you can see stuff was going on out there until you experience it and everything. And I
right.
remember I was signed to this one group, and there was a black guy. You know, I think at the time he was like maybe like somewhere in his 60s and stuff like that. No, but he was you know, what I'm saying, a straight up asshole. And then
Yeah.
in my mind, I was like, I do not want to be here.
Wow.
I'm like, what am I here
Nope.
for? So, and someone told me to get signed up to this one place, and big shout to Dr. Party. You know, he definitely was a lifesaver. I mean, I said, man, I appreciate you. You know,
Yeah.
and it wasn't because he was young, but the guy he had so much common sense. He made me feel like I was welcome. You know, that it
Right.
just him and his staff team, they was real cool and stuff. You know, but you know, it's sad how some folks that they sit here belittle you, you know, and that's what you know makes things becomes a problem and stuff. It's sad though because you got kids that here it is for 2009 up to now, kids committed suicide back to
Every
back,
single
back to
day.
back. You
Every
know, and
single-
some kids I get it because they're afraid to talk to their parents. And
Yep.
I think I touched on this one time. I said there was a kid that I think he was like maybe 13 years old. He committed suicide. He had asthma, so he wore a backpack. And then he was getting teased. His mother asked him, what was the problem? He, didn't want to say what it was, and then he committed suicide. And no offense to the mother, all due respect to her, I don't know if she did anything about it. I wish she would have done something about it while he was still around.
Right. Right.
He probably would have still been alive. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And then I'm thinking to myself, like, it's sad. I'm sure those kids felt stupid of doing that. At that time, but who
So
knows?
let me talk about that for a second. So not only just kids, but adults as well. Do
Mhm.
you know how many people, whether it's a art, and we're going to talk about artists as well, because little do you know, as an artist, people think, oh my God, they're making money, they're so famous, but dude, they don't understand all of the back lash that they get from all kind of things. That mental health is real. They
Yeah,
look at, oh, they're just going on the stage, they're doing their thing, they're so great. But you know what? They're human beings just like everybody else. They have emotions, they have feelings, they have, all of that stuff. And when you talk about kids and when you talk about parents and, trying to have them communicate and do the right things, it's not there, Rashad, because I'm gonna tell you, I see kids almost every single day, and the number one thing I hear from the parents is that the kids aren't going to talk to their parents the way they should because they're afraid of getting in trouble. They don't want their parents to think less than, or sometimes you got the stronger parents that says buck up, this is not to be talked about, there's no such thing as mental health. And that's why you see a lot of suicide these days, is because they are expressed not to talk about it. Not only that, when you talk about mental health and neglect and abuse, what you and I think is, mental abuse or whatever it may be,
yeah,
you have DCFS involved as well. So you got a lot of entities, whether it's schools, you got public entities, we're mandated reporters. So any small thing that a kid says out of their mouth, like, oh my God, I'm so depressed today, I just want to kill myself, or you know what, I have a gun, whatever it may be, you got to be careful with those words, because anything that we hear, whether gun, mental health, hurting someone, hurting yourself, is also just a public, what, you have to report it. And I think that's one of the reasons why there's a lot of suicide, is because I think society has shaped it into a whole different level.
yeah,
And there's no resources out there to help these kids with. Do you know how many times I have to figure out how to refer my kids to somewhere like in different states because we don't have the resources in our own areas? Like I'm talking
yeah.
3 or 4 states deep. So, parents don't have the money or the resources to do that. So there's a lot of stuff that comes into play when you talk about mental health with even adults. It's insurance, it's resources, it's, what they learn from their parents. The parents tell you to buck up, there's no such thing. They didn't know about it and they don't discuss it. And neither does the school system. So it's heavy out there. It's pretty bad.
It really is. It really is bad. Because everywhere you go with, it's always somebody, in a fear of, like they feel like there's something's going to happen to them and stuff,
Yeah.
And then, there's some parents wish they could, have the money. And back in the day, I remember it used to be based off your income. Long
Yeah.
as you make too much, where well, I guess depending on your income. If your kid, if a child could do homeschool, stuff like that,
Oh,
you know, and they have to deal with all that crap going on, and everything. And that's the sad part about that, And then, and then you got some schools where it's kind of like they kind of change it up. But here, I know, like in Little Kentucky, uh, well, there's some of them, not all of them. They try to make it like an all girls school. It is
yeah.
one school used to be boys and girls. Now it's like an all boys school
Yeah.
now. It's
Yeah.
crazy, But I always say that it's crazy how everything changed overnight, But far as the artists, one time my mother asked me this one time. She said, what kind of goes through your mind when you interview some of these artists, And
Yeah.
she said, I ain't talking about the fame, I ain't talking about none of that. And it kind of hit me. And I say, you know what, baby, I'll say this, maybe 200 out of 476 that I could tell some artists have been through a lot,
Yeah.
as far as they have success and everything, and because some people when they look at an artist, they think about the like the character. They think
Yeah.
about the artist
Yeah.
title, but they don't ever focus on the person. And it's
Right.
like with me, it's like I know you famous, I know you did this and that though, but I could tell that there was some shenanigans going on in your life.
Yeah.
Even though I don't talk about that personal stuff because that's none of my business,
Yeah.
but but you could tell that there's a lot of things go on, and then you got some folks that's kind of like they do that. They be like, "No, it ain't went through all that. What are you talking about?" and stuff. Then that becomes it. That's even bigger problem, and
Right.
everything. But yeah. But I think what hurts most of communities, even my generation, is that we never have uh a group of circle of people, to really
Right.
hold each other. It's what they hold. It's what they hold a person accountable, or be like a mentor to that person. You
Right.
know, I never had, I never had like my uncles. I mean, I love them though, but they never was a mentor in my life. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I never had a father, but and I don't lose myself. But there were certain cats I look up to. Was like, man, I wish I was my biological father or my
Yeah.
biological uncle and everything. But
Wow.
it's sad though. That's what happens. Even with black women, I see black women put each other down. I mean,
Oh.
I'm seeing daughters argue with mothers, mothers argue
Oh.
with daughters. It's like, how can you get just of your own daughter? Share that you graduate from high school, she get all these degrees, got everything going on, but only
Yeah.
time you care about her when she see you money.
Oh my gosh. When you touch on all of this, you just don't understand. Oh wow. So whether mother, daughter, sons, fathers, it all Rashad, it all starts, we call we do genograms in life. So we have to get down to the root cause of, anybody. And sometimes they don't want to talk about it, but we bring it out of them. And do you know pretty much a lot of the clients, and we see thousands, a lot of the root cause has come from their childhood, whether they discuss it, whether they don't want to talk about it, whether they had a mother or a father figure or whatever it may be. A lot of things have rooted from their childhood. And we call that learned behavior. That learned behavior, not because they want to. When you grow up, like for an example, if you grow up in a home where there's just a mother, no father, but at the same time, the mom's trying to be the dad and the mother and work and do all those things. At some point, I still say to people, you always need a mother and you always need a father figure, no matter how you get it. And when those kids are disrupted or uprooted, or they learn different behaviors of what they've seen their parents or grandparents do, it all triggers all up into their adulthood. We hear it, they bring it out, then they talk about, wow, I really didn't think about that. Yeah, I saw a lot of stuff. I had a lot of trauma in my life, and I didn't really realize that I'm bringing all of that into my family. And you don't realize it because it's embedded. You learn those behaviors as a kid. Not all the time, but most of the time you do. And if you don't
Yeah,
shape it, or if nobody guides you or helps you along the way, you don't know any difference whether it's right or wrong. I mean, we know right from wrong, but how you learn it, it all stems in your adulthood, and you can't get
yeah,
rid of it unless you get help to change it. It's
absolutely.
common, very common.
Yeah, because I remember a lady was telling me, and she was like, it was like maybe like back in 2021, and she said, Rashad, is sad that you don't see a lot of black people going to churches. And she said, she said it took me a long time to figure it out. She said all the reason why now. And I told her, I said, majority of the churches, not all that you see that, I believe, let's leave the Bible part out of it. As far
Yeah,
as like the people that's like these pastors and ministers, as far as our people, it's like they run people off,
yeah,
and stuff. Because my thing is like, you're supposed to be helping, the community. And I think what it is, because crime got so up, and we looking at this man and woman, who's running churches,
yeah,
and it's like, okay, like we supposed to look up to y'all, be our heroes, but y'all not even there with some pops off. You're only there to show your face on the news, to donate a couple dollars and a couple
yeah,
chicken wings, put
yeah,
inside a big old bucket. You know what I'm saying? So to me,
yeah,
it's fake, and I think it's sad though, because, you got some folks that a lot of times, it's God time with people like, hey, I'd love for you to come to my church. But I always say this though, if you feel like you want it there and you feel in your heart, then yeah, go there. If you don't feel it, then yeah, that's fine. But one thing about black people, I love y'all, but sometimes we gotta stop this. If somebody's a newcomer coming to church, or even if they've been there for a while, why you keep looking at them for the church? Here it is, like they try to get the word of God. You look at them like, what? You know, like who is that? You know, what I'm saying what that guy on? Now
I
what you
hear
got
that
on?
all the time. Oh my,
Yeah.
oh wow. Oh, everything you're talking about. And and I have to relate to my clients because I see so
Uh-huh.
many until, I can't discuss what they talk about, but even so we talk about the holistic life. I don't just talk about mental health or autism or ADHD or,
Yeah.
whatever they got going on because unfortunately people relate to you more, and you said it the best here. They relate to you more when you keep it 100% real. So I talk to my clients like a human being, not like a checklist, because I would want someone to come to me and say, well, Katina, check, you don't have this, check, you don't have this. You know how that makes people feel? It makes me feel like you're not validated. And I hear a lot of my
Yeah.
clients say, I really, not to toot my horn, but I like you because you keep it real. Like you talk to us like humans. We don't, you don't look at us differently like we're sick or like we have drug problems or
Yeah.
alcohol
Make
problems.
them feel appreciated.
Yeah, yeah. And you have to, because nowadays, when you look at society, you can't talk to people like a checklist anymore because this society is totally different. People don't want to hear, all the stuff that was checked off, 10 years ago. You got to keep it real with anybody and anything that you do. And sometimes they may not want to hear how you keep it real, but they will appreciate and respect you at the end versus telling them a lie at the beginning. Keep it real at the beginning and you will never lose a client. You'll lose them because, they get, like, I'm done, I just, yeah, whatever. But when they leave, they're going to remember that one person, that lady kept it real, even though I didn't like to hear what she had to say, but I keep it real with them because the way society is today, you have to. I don't have to lie for
Yeah.
you. I'm not going to lie for you. You have to keep it real.
He got to, I remember there was a guy that I know personally, and he was telling me, oh man, this was a long time ago, and like a couple years ago, he was telling me, he said that there was a guy, who was a minister and stuff, and
Yeah.
they're like almost around the same age, he used to call him brother. And then one thing it didn't hit until like the last minute. And one guy pointed that out and he was like, he said, I don't get it, man. You went through a whole lot. He never checked up on you, make sure you was good. Y'all talked on the phone and stuff,
Yeah.
you know. And then he said, nah, but he never did. And I said, but he really ain't a friend. That what you see, he'll talk about the word, all that's an image. All that's a publicity stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And I always say this, like me, I'm a type of person, it's like I'm not a spiritual person, but I always check up on people. I can have something going on, but I still always check up on folks, what
That's
I'm saying?
right.
Make sure they good because I want that back as well. I mean, I got more people hit me up than my own family, you know what I'm saying? So,
Oh,
and black people, we gotta stop that. All
yeah.
that favoritism. But yeah, instead they want me to, hey, cuz, you think you can get me in to meet this favorite artist? No way you're a nigga roll dreams. You know what I'm saying? So no, it's not gonna happen in your lifetime, It is
Oh,
it is sad, because that's the world that we live in. But I always
yep.
say this that that if you claim that that you love helping people, what I'm saying, and somebody's talking about something, even if when you hear the thing, check up on them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you claim that, okay, like that's my bro, that's my sis, check up on them. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? At least that make them feel better, at some
Right.
point. I don't have some people tell me, say, man, dude, like I see some of your videos on Instagram and
Yeah.
the way you broke it down, this and that, because for me it's like you don't have to listen to what I'm saying. I just want you to, feel where I'm coming from.
Absolutely. I
And so
mean,
yeah.
you have to, and Rashad, not everybody is built like you and I, and we don't expect them to be. Everybody's got their own, demons and own things and own personal lives and things that they have going on. So we respect that. We totally get it. But at the same time, it goes back to what you said, whether, if it's someone deeply rooted and, like you said, that's my brother, my sister, I don't care, no matter what you got going on, at least, send a comment, prayers up, we may not be able to, oh my God, what's going on? But at
Right.
least you know that that person is there. It may take a day or two to, to see it and respond, but it's not like we're obligated to do that. But that's just kind of how you're made to be built, and I get it. Not everybody's built that way, and we don't expect for them to be that way. Some people just can't handle that, honestly. But at least, at some point in their life, they should check up on you, even if it's a phone call or a text versus social media or whoever, to at least see how you're doing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because something,
Period.
and I always say that, whenever you feel funny vibes about something, it's God's trying to tell you something,
That's right.
it is the truth, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And that's the honest God, and I think that sometimes, that's the whole circle we in and everything. I want to point this out to you. There was a movie that Tyler Perry made. It had Taraji P. Henson. A handful of black people gave their feelings about the movie. And I thought to myself, it was only ones who actually maybe never, maybe never held a person hostage, but the whole mental state of what
Yeah.
black people go through every day. Single mothers, that's like, say, like 35 years old, they got a child or two, or the child dies, or whatever, or, whatever going on and stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, y'all only doing it because it's Tyler Perry. Y'all trashing it. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? If Antoine Fuqua directed, I probably would never said nothing about that.
Right.
All because Tyler Perry. But in Tyler's defense, he's doing that because this was going on day to day.
Every
You know
day.
what I'm saying? Even though that's a great money making decision, but there are women like Taraji P. Henson's character,
Yeah.
and we go to work, we do got some a-hole type of bosses, no doubt about it, and stuff. And that's just the way the world we live in. And people focus on too much of, the celebrities. They didn't pay attention to the story. And that's the problem.
That's a oh wow. That's this is when when society is when did a 360 backwards. So you're absolutely right. And so when you look at like you said this for this example, when you look at people like this and how the movie is shaped and how reality is, a lot of people look at these movies like, is this really real? Like, does this really happen? You don't know how many times that exact movie that you're talking about is
Mhm,
everyday life that I even hear from my clients. When people,
mhm.
so I'll take it back. Maybe I'll just give you an example. Maybe me being 10 years old. And so I'm looking at something like this. Oh, yeah, that never happens, because I'm 10. I haven't seen the world and I don't know if this stuff really exists. But as I have seen thousands of clients, and the shape of that movie and what you just said is honestly real life. And so when people look at this stuff, Rashad, when they look at like the visions of what Tyler was trying to make this out of and what people actually go through, it's almost like simple minded. Like it
Yeah,
really can't happen, and I'm not gonna sit here and believe that this can happen. And then they start shaping black females or the black males like, why did you play this character? Because now you're making something that looks like it's real that it's really not. So it's almost like telepathy of like lack of knowledge of like this stuff really does exist in the world, if that makes sense,
yeah,
when
you're
it
right.
actually exists every single day
Every
in this
single day.
world. And so people got to start, I call it looking outside of the box and understanding that whatever Tyler Perry or whoever puts out, these actors and actresses, they mimic whatever the vision is. But in
Mhm.
reality of real life, this stuff actually happens. And a
Yep.
lot of these movie producers and filmmakers, they actually build these things off of sometimes their life and what's happened. And a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that, because it's like, because, we live in a time where, you got female rappers look like they got out of a strip club. And then you got,
Wow.
yeah, so like you got all that going on. And then, you got they got all these, platforms that promote all this negativity that's going on
Oh,
back to back, back to back. And it's sad, Like there's no, growth in that. You know what I'm saying? Because my thing is like, it's sad that that these days when you got women that's black women that's in their 40s competing with a woman that's in her 20s
And older. Yeah,
and
yeah,
older. Yeah,
yeah.
and older. You know what I mean? Why
Mhm.
you compete with them for? It's like you had your time. Your
It's
time is about, your life. It's like I mean, like your adulthood should be about timeless. Because I always thought that when a
yeah.
woman is in the 50s and 60s,
Ugh,
that mind frame should focus on, okay, I did those things. I used to dress like it, but I'm in a time of life. I love life. I love my kids. I love my
that's
grandkids.
right.
My journey is timeless. I ain't talking about no hit record. You know
That's
what I'm
right.
saying? My journey is timeless. I'm loving where I'm at now. God, I made it. Thank you. And that's where a black man, black woman forgets. You know,
Oh, wow. Oh
like
my God.
it's like we so invest into negativity, we don't focus on the
On the
positivity.
positivity. Oh wow.
And that's the thing too.
Wow.
Like if you see something wrong going on, somebody is doing something, help them out. Just don't sit there and wait, let them fall from the wayside. That's fake. It's
Oh
fake
wow.
altogether. I mean, you can't
Wow.
blame, we're not blaming everybody, but there's some folks that claim like, oh man, I'm there for my brother and sister. Help them out.
Right. Now
If
some
you
people
like to see people struggle, there's some stuff gonna happen to you.
is that exactly. Now I'm a piggyback off of you, not only just people in general, but when we talk about this, black women, in their what you said 40s, want to be 20s, but even in the older stage. So I'm going to throw this out here. So as you and I, like when we're trying to build what we're doing, right? So we try to, make things happen on social media. We're trying, we're we are who we are. No matter what is thrown at us, we're gonna come back. It is what it is. For an example, so when we're trying to put our things out there, we're trying to promote our stuff. Get people involved, and like you said, you got these women haters, men, whatever it may be. They coming at you, you don't do this, you don't do that, or they try to make you feel like you're less than, or that you're delusional, or you're doing this and you're
Yeah,
really not doing this. And then they're on your profiles, they're trolling, they're going to other people profiles, putting up fake information, saying you're this, saying you're that. I get it all the time. I'm dealing with it right now as we speak, which I'm taking care of. But at the same time, people like that, and you just made a very strong point. You could have been exactly where we are. No one told you to be where you are. And like you said, if you're envious about what you and I or anybody else does, you had your time to shine. So why would you go and be negative towards someone to make them look less than because you're mad because you're not where they are? So
yeah,
everything that we do, you want to trash, you want to talk about, and it goes exactly what you said. I am who I am. I don't change my stripes for anybody. And like if I see something, I'm gonna call it like I see it. If I know that you're garbage, I'm gonna say that you're garbage. And I mean
yeah.
that in a sincere way. Regardless of a mental health professional, we are still human beings. And a lot of times when you get all this trolling social media negative stuff, people's mental health, they don't understand. You don't know what people are going through. So when you want to play the victim because you're the one that's throwing the garbage out there, don't dish out what you can't handle, because a lot of
Yeah.
times people aren't going to back down to your foolishness, and so people don't understand that. You had your opportunity to be something, but don't sit here and proclaim that somebody's something they're not when you don't even know who these people are.
Exactly. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Better wake up, And
Real fast.
that's a real truth, because that's my whole, biggest issue about that. Because me as a black man, I've never been insecure of any man, no matter what success
Exactly.
they got going on, no matter what clothes they had on, no matter what opportunities they had. But what? That was meant for them to have. Depends on, how well they appreciate it, what I'm saying,
Right.
receiving me.
Right.
Even a female,
Ugh.
like this one lady that Miss B and V knows. I don't want to mention the young lady's name on air, but it's sad that it's one thing you got the gay man that's just a women. We hear it all the time. But
Yeah.
when you a straight man, be just of a woman, that's a bigger issue. Like
Yeah.
Negro, what the hell you smoking on, man?
Yeah. That's not good.
You know, I mean, it's stupid. Like I would never raise like that. I never felt no
Yeah.
type of way or nothing. It just, everybody's blessings always come through. It just it's
Right.
all how you receive it.
Right.
That's how I look at because I know my blessings are coming. It may not come fast as I want it, but I know it's going to get there.
Always on time.
Always on time, you know what I'm saying? And God knows what's in our hearts and stuff, it's just that sometimes, you got some folks that they never motivate each other, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
No
They want
matter
to
how
tear
we
you
talk.
down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got some
Yeah.
folks that want to make it hard on you and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Being hard on somebody is not gonna get you nowhere, but more, it blocks your blessings
Right.
straight up. You know what I'm
You
saying?
know, and not only that, when you find people like that, it makes you wonder in reality, like really what are you about in real life? That and it wouldn't be anyone I would want to associate with. Because
Right.
if you do that on social media, or you do that or proclaim to do it in public, but then you want to play a victim or act like nothing's wrong with you, but it's everything wrong with that person, that's a real problem. I've been a mental health professional for over 20 years, and I call it like I see it. And the reality of all this is that if you don't like what a person does or who they are, it's better yet just to shut up and just go on your way and let bygones be bygones and go entertain yourself with something else. But why try to trash people and put people down? Number one, when you don't know them because you're jealous of what they're doing and you're not, just go on your way, because that's a
Yeah.
mental health. Unfortunately, that is a mental health behavior that has deeply rooted from childhood or some trauma that you have had that you can't get out of. So all of that is progressed onto somebody else that they don't like. And unfortunately, that is a bad mental health state to have.
It is. It's a bad middle state. It is, And I know it's with some independent artists, like his one guy, not gonna, and he was managing his boys and stuff, and I was telling him, I said, that you cannot be insecure in this business. You, your wife,
No.
y'all can't be insecure because for one, in this business, you gotta have tough skin. You have some people that's gonna, of course, you're gonna receive positive feedback.
Yeah.
You got some folks that got the worst delivery ever. They may not mean it, but some folks they don't know how to tell you, the right way instead of just
Right.
being all over the place. And that's the sad part about it. But that's a part of business. You should never
Right.
take things to the heart. And it's always looking like that's a mental thing, more than ever. And hated is when you talking down on somebody. But when
Yes.
somebody do have a honest opinion, and yet the whole delivery is messed up.
Yeah.
It's just the way it
Absolutely.
is. You got some folks
Absolutely.
talk about, but that's just the way I am. Well, guess what? I ain't got to deal with you no more. How
That's
about that?
right.
So that's the sound. And I mean, I'm a type of person. If I hear a song, if it's on point, I'm like, okay, so like, so you good to go. If I feel like a song is like kind of dry or
Yeah.
something needs to be fixed, I'm gonna
Yeah.
give you a few points, keep it moving. I'm not gonna say it just talk you down. Now, if your voice just straight up horrible, I'm like, nah, you don't need to be no singer. Whatever talent you supposed to have, go with that. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody hating on you because you got nothing to hate about. So let's get that out the way. My
Oh
career
God.
versus your career ain't got nothing to do with whatever it is you're supposed to be doing. So that's the funny part about that. I'll say about that. Like here it is, 2025. We lost so many legendary
Yeah.
artists and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing though, a handful of our people be like, "I don't understand why people dying." But one thing I said this in the comments, I had a pin my own comments in Instagram. I was like, "You gotta understand, these artists they sacrifice their own careers to get where they need to be at." I'm gonna talk
Yeah.
people back in the day. I ain't talking about the current artists, but
Right.
with segregation. And some of them, they went through depression with alcohol, drugs, messing
Yeah.
with multiple women,
Women. Yeah.
or even women messing with multiple men, wherever how it went, they sacrificed a lot, bad health and everything. But at the same time, it paid off, but it opened up a lot of doors for everybody.
Yeah.
That's the real truth. And that's where, people tend to forget, because of that, you know. And that's the sad world that like that we live in. And I wish that our people could really do better. You know.
I agree. I agree. And they don't understand that these past, to veteran artists, you're right, they paved the way, but not only that, and they're still paving for the ones that are still living. And
Yeah.
all these remixes and things are actually coming back from, the older artists, and so the thing about it, they're dying. We all gotta, go sometime in our lives, and whether we had a hard life or a good life, I mean, you can be the healthiest artist and pass away tomorrow, but at the same time, they paved the way for us, because without them, it wouldn't. I mean, we would eventually got it, but still, that old school vibe, the old school things, that the knowledge and stuff that they brought to us, listening to their music, I still go back and listen to it. I mean, of course, I'm not in the older, but I still listen to it because it resonates more than what this current stuff is bringing out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's more just my vibe and the music, the old school music, and the way it used to be, and not all this, hootie over here and hootie over there. I just that doesn't entertain me. I like the
Yeah.
real stuff that was authentic.
Yeah. Because like if people listen to like Earth, Wind and Fire's music, especially like in the mid late 70s
Yeah.
and stuff, I believe the 80s part out of it, but far as like in the 70s, it was like they had a message where Marie said, "You will find a peace of mind if you
Yep.
look yourself deep and down your soul. Don't hesitate. You
Yep.
know what I'm saying? Stay young at heart. You know what I'm saying? And you don't hear stuff like that anymore. And because it's like back then, it's like how this when you're a kid, like, oh man, I like this song, but older you get, you're like, wait a minute now, this artist was trying to say something,
Yeah.
to all of us,
Yeah.
whether we didn't comprehend or not. You know what I'm saying? And music, and that's one thing. Okay, so we're gonna talk about Kenny G. You know what's crazy though? I remember as a little boy, in the late '80s. I think I was about like maybe like 6, 7 years old. I remember his music. Music video was always on BET and VH1. MTV never played his videos. I don't think they ever did. Yeah, I mean, I get it because he was, a jazz artist. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
he did R&B, contemporary and stuff.
Yep.
But I mean, the dude was like everywhere. You know what I'm saying? And when I look back as I got older, I said, man, this guy did a lot of body work behind the scenes for other artists, his album
Yeah.
sessions and everything. That I saw some of his stuff in the 70s. I was like, what? That's how he looked like back then? Looked so different. But I get it. It was the 70s with their different style, his own image. And like if somebody took a Kenny G from the 70s to compare it now, like, wow, man, his whole look is different,
You're
you
right.
know, and stuff. But that was the style back then, you had to evolve with whatever you going
That's
through,
right.
what I'm saying?
That's right.
Everything. Now for you, I see, you promote, celebrate, Kenny G. I mean, we all celebrate different artists. What
Yeah.
inspired you, from here to want to be an artist?
Um, Not so much be one, because I think it gave me more of the drive, like the motivation to, I'm gonna bring this up because I'm just gonna bring this up because it all intertwines. Everything that I do, no matter what it is, it all builds around everything that I do. And so he inspired me because not only like the jazz parts, he's the smooth jazz, but technically jazz, and then I'm the R&B. But because of him as a person, I think that kind of gave me a lot of the motivation and drive to, like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna put out my songs, I'm gonna do my music, and then I develop the record label. And it's all of this is an inspiration, not just because of him. I mean, I had that
Yeah,
drive before, but just being like with him, just that part of his life, it's kind of like, wow, like that man. And you talked about him, he's a legend. I mean, he's done a lot of things that a lot of people didn't do, even though, the
yeah,
critics are like, he's not jazz. You know what? That man is jazz. He anything you want him to be. He can play his instrumental into rap. He can play it
yeah,
into pop, hip hop. He did Doja Cat with the VMAs just recently. So this man's style, and it's different for a Caucasian man, because a lot of people will look like he can do that. but he was raised in that environment.
Yeah,
And so I think as he grew into that, it's just natural for him. But the man can do anything. And so when you go to his shows, as a fan, like if you go to his shows and you just see like what he can do, it's like amazing. That will inspire anybody. Whether
yeah,
you're an artist, whether you're just a fan, just watching or listening to his music. A lot of that came behind him because of him, his dedication, his hard work. He works hard. He's very humbled. You look at some celebrities and be like, oh my God, he's just an egotistical, whatever. But this man, he's unbelievable. I call him unmatched because of who he is, and just he continues at his age. And he looks good for his age, but he is just a motivating factor for anybody. Over like in Nairobi, Kenya. When I tell you, just watching the fans and how he just and the band, how they just presented that music to that kind of audience, you would have thought he was still just African American himself. Just the way they respected him and just how he just moved. It was
yeah,
unreal. It was unbelievable. It was
he
unbelievable.
has to.
Yeah, he's truly a very authentic jazz artist. Period.
Yeah, he has a strong fan base, and I
Yes,
say
he
this
does.
of all the well known saxophone players and stuff. He's like he's like one of the top I could say that can sell out a show. They don't
Yep.
need no open act, no nothing. He might
Nope.
bring in a couple of guests for say whatever
Right.
song that he collaborated with or that was on his album,
Yep.
whatever and stuff. But that's about it. And I would love for him to do another song with Peter Bryson or
Oh
do
my
another
gosh.
album.
Yes. Yes.
Or do another album or something.
I'm actually gonna I've been trying to get Pedro Bryson like on my talk show, but I'm gonna actually and I think I've seen people actually requesting for Kenny and Pedro to do another collaboration together.
Yeah, because
Yep.
when that song came out, it exploded,
Yes.
on oh God, was it BT Been I Love? And then you have VH1, they played the heck out of that back then,
Midnight
that was a
Love.
good record. And I,
Yep.
I think that song, it was Grammy nominated or something like that. I won a Grammy, one or two though, but I know that song definitely, it was on fire though. I definitely
It
was and stuff.
it's
And
still on fire, actually. It's actually, and I guarantee you, if they brought it back out, heavy and hard and promoted it,
Mhm.
it would still be like, not that it's not on fire, it's on fire now, but it would be up there in the rankings because that
Oh
song.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. If he
yeah,
re-released some of the yeah, released that album, re-released it. Oh God, it would just smother everything
oh,
that's going on.
I'm telling you, and the thing about too is that a lot of times some of the music that is presented from him is like not that it's not like underrated, but if you brought it back up to the surface with some of the collaborations and people and even his music that he's done, it's still right now, it's still there. But if they bring it out even more, man,
Yeah,
wow.
I see a lot of
Yeah,
guys are trying to like emulate him and stuff,
yeah,
try to take the whole little sound,
yeah,
everything. That's like at the end of
yeah,
the day, you got to pay homage to him because that's where it
yeah.
came from. It's like Kenny G, like he done birthed so many, saxophone players, no matter what race they was.
Exactly. And the thing about, and there's still even the young kids, but the thing about it is you can never duplicate him, of course, because he's got a sound. If you were in a room full of people and Kenny was behind like the wall and you had like 10 different saxophonists playing and Kenny played in the background, you would automatically know Kenny G's music. He's different from anybody, anything, anybody. You can't duplicate him.
Yeah,
He's
you can.
amazing.
And I'm shocked though that he's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know what I'm
I
saying?
know. Somebody else said that.
It's weird. He got so many Grammys, so many Billboard awards. I mean,
I
everywhere you
know.
can think of. I'm shocked he's not in that. And because there was a time where he was the only one besides Chris Jones to have each album going platinum over twice
Twice,
platinum and
yeah.
everything else. I'm like, what in the world's going on? I mean, he did everything he was supposed to do. So
He's on the Hall of Fame, but that's different from, that one. But you know what? If they keep, if a lot of people just keep like bringing that music back to surface, who knows? You
yeah,
know? I don't know who you get to talk about it, but it's got to press a button somewhere because that man, he's unbelievable. I mean, I don't understand why he's not either, and other things,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
he's humbled about it. He don't make a scene about, oh my God, I'm not, in this, on this, and on this. He just does him. He lets his music, as he says it, I let my music do the talking.
Yeah.
Period. Yeah.
Because I think there probably was a time that, certain
Yeah.
points time say, you know what, I see some of my favorites, some of my friends go through it, then I
Yep.
totally understand,
Yep.
now I get it, what they experience and everything and stuff. Because it's like once you, get a Grammy, once you get a Billboard Award, or so many platinum plaques, you're like, you know what,
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
what it is. I mean, I done accomplished everything, so I mean, what more do I need?
I think that's his mindset. I think it's
Yeah,
more of, who can he inspire? Like, you got the younger artists like Doja Cat, wants to do the intro at the
yeah,
VMAs, or you got Cheat Codes, he did with Izzy Bizu, he did, collab with them. So not only is he inspiring, the older generation, but the new ones because of that saxophone style. Like it's something different that he can bring to the table that a lot of people can't do in any type of music. And that's what's unique about him that people are not realizing. He's very unique.
yeah. Because I would love to see like a brand new album, where it's like he got People Bryson,
Oh,
as a feature. He got Shaka Khan.
like Khan.
He got
Yes.
Stephanie Mills. He got Mickey Howard. He got Johnny Gill. Who he got? Oh God, I'm trying to think. Okay, let's say like 15 songs. He got that. Of course, a couple instrumentals
In the
in
middle. Yeah.
between and stuff.
Yeah.
Did oh God, what's his name? That one brother. He's selling Young Marvin Gaye. October London. Bring him in the mix.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. It's a handful of people. My brain is zoning. Stokely from Mid Condition.
Oh,
I
mid
mean,
condition.
yeah,
Yeah.
Mid Condition. I mean, I love to see all that, happen, that'd be a great,
Oh,
album and stuff, So to me, he's like the white Quincy Jones of his time, you know what I'm saying?
he's phenomenal. I mean, people still just don't understand the the talent that man has. I mean, they're like, "Oh, Kenny G, he's great. He plays his music." They still don't understand how phenomenal that man is.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the real truth, Um, for you, you've been like helping so many people, over the years and stuff. Oh, you know what? Okay, we don't talk about that. Like, let's switch the subject on this one.
Okay.
Okay, your podcast, and I appreciate you, for having me on there as a guest. I never appreciate that. You had a handful of artists on there, Great and
Yeah.
Varel, my boy, JVR, and man, so many others and stuff. What inspired you to want to do a podcast?
So I had it back last year. So everything, like I said, it evolves around just my endeavors, the mental health. So I guess the ultimate goal for me, Rashad, was to kind of bring out not only my profession, because I do so much like development, I work with physician, doctors, all kind of people. And I think what inspired me the most, I was like, you know what? You see talk shows, you see a lot of different things. And I was like, you know what? I need to start bringing awareness out there because this is something that I'm going to do with all of my stuff. And I already knew that I was going to start my own private company. I already knew that I was going to start doing my albums and things like that last year. I'm like, you know what? Let me start getting kind of like you. Let me start getting it out there so I can talk to different people because not only the mental health, I don't want it to be all about mental health, but that is still a factor in everybody's everyday life. It's a holistic approach. And it just kind of inspired me. I was like, you know what? I'm going to start doing my podcast and talk not just about one specific thing. It's going to be a multiple of things. That way people can resonate, whether it's music, mental health, our own businesses, whatever it may be. And that's kind of what inspired me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, you are good at what you do. It. You know what I'm
Oh, thank
saying?
you.
I done seen some women, though they mentioned it's like, they start out, it's like the lights are off, but ain't nobody inside the house to come, like turn it back on and stuff. So
Oh,
yeah, and that's the sad part about that. We gotta do better. That's a whole different episode for another topic and stuff and everything.
well, and it is, but you know what? The point about that is that don't don't now I take and I know you do as well. Don't take a podcast or a talk show and play with it, because a lot of times what you're emulating to people is selfishness. Because if you're putting out things that people want to hear or people want to see, and not just lollygagging, just getting whoever on a podcast just to look good, you got a one thing coming, because a lot of people don't appreciate that, to be honest. If
Yeah,
you're developing a talk show or a podcast, like when I look at you, I'm like, man, whoo, Rashad is just, now this is what's real. Now this is what you call talk shows. But don't play with it, or you don't have the background or the accolades to actually, not that everybody has to have something to make a podcast, don't get me wrong, but at least know what you're talking about.
yeah,
At least bring something to the table that you're not, putting out false perceptions of who you are as a podcast developer. It doesn't make sense, because you can't
yeah.
take somebody else's trade and think you can use it in order to build a podcast, because eventually they're going to catch on and they're going to want to know, what do you actually know?
That's true. Yeah, because some people they just get on there so they could be liked, and a lot of
Yes,
times it's a mental part. Because like if you didn't get
yes,
attention at home,
yep.
like you step into the world, like you just want it so bad. Like
Ugh,
there's a lady that her parents don't want her to be a podcaster, and they don't want her to be in the business. And
hmm,
it took me a minute to figure out why. And then I was like, oh, I get it now because she's all over the place.
yeah,
And that's saying a lot,
yep.
coming from two parents and stuff, to tell you that. But with
Well,
that being said, before we get off here, what you got going next?
all right. Oh wow. So I have a so with the record label, what I'm doing, so I have a new well, I got multiple of tracks coming out. And I know, we got the music videos and things like that, but
Yeah.
with the record label, I have in the Tubi, we're starting to develop film like into the music type of thing. So for 2026, I'm working with DJs and other artists to do like a concert either in New York or LA. And then I signed actual, I don't know if you saw any Anesta is like she did
Oh
like
yeah.
yeah, background for Snoop Dogg and things like that. So I'm her agent and also booking. And so she lives in
Okay.
New Mexico. So I'm actually working with her on that side of the world to start getting her some concert tours and things out there. So pretty much it's getting the albums, getting more artists, underneath my label, working with them. We talked about development and things like that, and just keep on moving. And I shape it around, Kenny's tours, because I go to all of his shows. So when I'm there, when I'm, in the midst of things like now, I do whatever I need to do in the midst of it. But for the most part, just travel and just get my things out and work with other artists and keep building the podcast.
Oh man, hey, shoot, sound like you got your hands on everything, just
Yeah,
about,
you
and
have
keep doing what
to.
you're doing, you
Thank you. I
know,
appreciate it.
because I always say, if you got the will to do it, hey, go for it, because like you blessing everybody, that's pretty much a great word from God, you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
thank God for you know, people like you, to provide that. And I say that comes a long way. So with that being said, it's your
Thank
boy,
you.
Mr. Solar Effect, Shiny from the RB Talk Show. Thank you, Dr. Katina Ann, coming through. Big shouts to people on here leaving comments and stuff like that. I see it on here. And with that being said, for those who missed the interview, don't worry about it. It's on here. It's not like Instagram where you have to search and find
I
it
know, right?
down the timeline. That's stuff. But with that being said, we are out of here.
Thank you so much.
You got it.
Bye bye.